Let me not to the marriage of true minds admit impediments. Love is not love which alters when it alteration finds, or bends with the remover to remove. Today we're going to discuss William Shakespeare Sonnet 116. This poem is all about constancy of true love. It is fixed and eternal, and it won't change even when the object of love changes. We have divided this lesson into 3 units. First of all, we will discuss the whole summary of the whole poem, and secondly we will discuss about the form and structure of this poem. Finally, we will have a detailed analysis of each lines of this poem. So if you're new here, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and stick to the lesson till the end. So let's begin with our discussion of the poem. Sonnet 116 is usually held to be one of the best and most perfect evocation of love poetry. Instead of speaking to a person, this sonnet is a generalization about what exactly love is, or what love is not, how love should be, and how love should not be. In the first quatrain, the speaker declares that he ought not to obstruct or stand in the way of real love. Then, of course, he says that there can be no obstructions and nobody can stand in the way of true love. In the second quatrain, the speaker presents us with a couple of extended metaphors. One is that he compares love to a lighthouse, and he compares it with a pole star, both of which are useful in climbing or finding direction. They are useful to sailors and travelers, and they help people to find their way, especially in days before we had GPS, and when people were not very sure about the map of the world. Lighthouses and pole stars were the only means where people could find way in uncharted world. The poet claims that love, if it is true love, can in a similar fashion provide guidance to any traveler who is walking through this world. In the last quatrain, the speaker meditates upon the true nature and the relationship between love and time. Usually, it is believed that time in some ways eradicates love, but Shakespeare says that time in no way can change love, especially if it is a true love. Thus, he says that love cannot be constrained by time. It will outlast time even to the end of time itself. So, even though time might come to an end, love will outlast, love will continue. People who were in love, though they might grow old, though they might change, love itself will remain fresh and blooming. Finally, we come to the concluding couplet where Shakespeare kind of issues a challenge to the people, and he says that if what he has written so far in the 3 quatrains is not true, then it has to be said that no man can ever loved, or not there have been any writing. It is in the same way a final stroke, because what he is saying there is that if his statement about true love is proved to be untrue, he himself as a writer is failed, and love itself has failed, because there have been no love ever. He is saying that no one ever loved before and will not love in future in this whole world.
This sonnet follows the traditional pattern of Shakespearean sonnet, having 3 quatrains and a couplet. It also follows the Shakespearean sonnet's traditional rhyming scheme: AB, AB, CD, CD, EF, EF, and GG. And it is written in iambic pentameter, so that it is regulated. The regulated rhyme or rhythm and structure suggests the consistency and stability which is reflected in the ideas about love. And if you want to know more about the form, structure, and background about Shakespearean sonnet, check out my other lessons on them. I'll be sharing the link in the description below. And about this sonnet, Sonnet 116, we should note one fact, that there is a trochaic substitution in the very first line. Here, let me lot, in this line, let is stressed, which is different from the iambic pentameter. That is why the first line is trochaic substitution here. And this poem, we see that the first syllable is stressed, and it is perhaps to show the emphasis on the opening line, where the speaker is delivering an important and purposeful message. Shakespeare begins the sonnet with "Let me not to the marriage of true minds admit impediments." Here, we find an emphasis on the opening line. The tone of this line expresses as if the speaker is entering a room and telling someone this very statement. We had to assume who is the speaker and who is the audience or the listener of this poem or of this tone. What we can understand from the position of the sonnet, as the 116th sonnet, is that most likely it is an older man who is speaking to a younger man. This is because the sonnet of the fair youth sequence is addressed to a young man, and this 116th sonnet is a part of this sequence. Although there is no direct reference to the fair youth, we assume that the speaker is an old man, or maybe the poet himself in his old age, who is addressing to a young man and trying to teach him what exactly love is all about. Despite the confessional tone in this sonnet, there is no direct reference to the youth. The general context, however, makes it clear that the poet's temporary alienation refers to fair youth's inconstancy and betrayal, not directly to the poet, probably betrayal to himself. As a result, Sonnet 116 seems to be a meditative attempt to define love, especially true love. In the opening line, the poet uses a phrase which comes from Christian marriage service, that is, impediment, which means a bar or a hindrance to a lawful marriage. In the Christian marriage service, there is a part where priest says to the people attending that wedding that if anyone knows of any just impediment why this marriage should not be taken place, they should speak up now or forever hold their peace. It is that part that is referred to when the poet says, "Let me not to the marriage of true minds admit impediment." That means he should not put up an obstacle in the way of the marriage of true minds. Here, true minds means the true love and mature love, which doesn't bother about any earthly changes. Love is not love. Then the poet says in the first quatrain, "Love is not love, which alters when alteration finds, or bends with the remover to remove." Here he says that love cannot be true if it changes for any reason. It does not change when it finds changes in the loved one. Our true love should be constant. It will not change in the same way that the appearance of the lovers do. Now we have got an example of polypteton here. Polypteton means the use of the same word or the word from the same root. So here you see the alter, alteration, remover and remove. And those words suggest that love is constant. In the second quatrain, we see it begins with an exclamation as if the speaker is responding to what he has just said. He starts by saying, "Oh no, it is an ever-fixed mark." So it is not fickle, it is not inconstant. Instead, it is fixed. It is an ever-fixed mark. Here the word mark has twofold meaning. One is the goal or a point or something marked. Another one is a landmark or a boundary land. The mark in Shakespeare's time was said to be any major landmark which travelers or sailors could see from a distance and which would help them to know where exactly they were when they were traveling. So when he says it is an ever fixed mark, he is referring to something which doesn't change because of. So the speaker is saying that love is fixed or unchanging even though in the difficult times. The poet thus compares love to a lighthouse or any such beacons which works as a landmark to sailors and mariners. It is an ever fixed mark that looks on tempest and never shaken. When the poet says these lines, here we can see that the landmark is probably referring to a lighthouse or any such beacons that helps the mariners and the sailors to find their path. Here the word tempest means storm in the sea. Even storm cannot make it move or shaken. It is fixed because it has stood there and will continue to stand as a guiding light for the travelers. This lighthouse is higher, which puts out lights for the mariners or travelers when there is a storm, so that sailors will find guidance in the rough sea. However, storm cannot do any harm to this lighthouse. This lighthouse is helping the travelers, and it is unshaken by the storm. So we can say that love, like that lighthouse or the landmark, at a height is at a height from our general life. There might be tempest in real life, there might be difficulties in life of the lovers, but at the same time their love will remain beyond and above all these. That means their life may be affected by storms or difficulties, but their love will remain the same. Love will not be affected by any kind of difficulties or storm or tempests. Then the poet uses another metaphor for love. He compares love to a star. He says that it is the star to every wandering bark, whose worth unknown, although his height be taken. Here he is referring love to a pole star or North Pole star. Now, during this period, which is a period of great marine exploration in England, when Shakespeare is writing in 1590s, the pole star was of great significance because it used to guide sailors. It was the one fixed point in the sky according to which they could navigate the sea which were unknown to them. The height of the star can be measured, although its worth is priceless. Here, love is referred to a star which is giving direction to a wandering bark. Here, bark means a small boat, and this small boat is lost and wandering aimlessly. That means love can be something which helps us to get back on, on course. If we are lost, love will help us to find our way again. So we can sum up this second quatrain by saying that love is a guiding light wherever, whether it is in the form of a lighthouse or in the form of a pole star. It works as a guiding force for every individual who is wandering through life. In the third quatrain, the poet says, "Love's not time's fool." In Shakespeare's time and in many of his plays, we found a character named Fool. A fool entertains people and tells the words of wisdom. Here, in the line, love and time are personified as if they are in a combat. When the poet says, "Love's not time's fool," he says, time is not a ruling monarch to rule love, and love is not a fool to provide entertainment. Instead, he is saying that though rosy lips and cheeks within his bending sickle's compass come, love alters not with his brief hours and weeks. Time take away beauty, and it may take away youth, but it cannot conquer love. Here time itself is compared to death, or sort of the groom reaper. You can see the word sickle refers to the groom reaper. That is, sickle is a tool which cuts away grass or that like that thing elements. So you can see here that although time is
representing death, love still wins over time. Like a mower, time is mowing people's beauty, youth, or even life. That means, like the sickle, love is cutting beauties and youths from people's life. However, it cannot do any harm to real love. Love overpowers this sickle. That means time. Time cannot in any way alter love. Love will carry on in spite of time's barriers. Now, look at the last line of the quatrain. Here the poet says, but bears it out even to the edge of doom. Here the word doom refers to the doomsday, or it means the judgment day, that means the last day of the world. So time itself will come to an end at the judgment day or at the doomsday. However, love will pass. That means, so here the poet is saying that even time has an ending, but love will continue. Love lasts beyond death. It is a hyperbole that reflects the power of love once again. The poem ends with a couplet where the poet says, if this be error and upon me proved, I never read, nor no man ever loved. Here we find a volta or change in tone. In the final couplet, the poet changes his tone and uh, the poet becomes almost quite defensive and challenging here. He is like guarantees what he has said in the previous lines, that he guarantees that they are true. He says that if he is proved to be false, there can be no love in this world. That means no man have ever loved, and he himself never written anything. So we know that William Shakespeare is one of the greatest playwrights and poets in English literature. So we know that he has written poetry, he has written plays or drama, for what he is still ever fresh in our mind, and man has loved in the past and loving at present and will be loving in future. So we must admit that what he has said about love is an absolute truth.